In this video, I want to go over, these are some problems from homework 6, like question, I think it's 11, 12, and 13, or where they give you some trig expressions, and then they give you, basically it's a matching, and so you have to do some fancy proven identities to get them to match up. So this one's was requested. I think it's a particularly challenging one. So there's a couple different routes you could do here, but I think most people would most likely think of just changing everything to sine and cosine, because that's something we've done a lot. So in this case, this would become cosine x over, now I'm going to change tangent to sine over cosine. And so because I have sine over cosine, it makes sense to change 1 to cosine over cosine. That way I'll be able to add those two things together. Then I'll do a similar thing over here, where cotangent is cosine over sine. So that means I'll change this to sine over sine. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and simplify the bottom. So I'll have cosine x on top here, and cosine x minus sine x on the bottom, over cosine. And then here I'll have sine x on top, and on the bottom I'll have sine x minus cosine x over sine x. And anytime you have a fraction within a fraction, you want to simplify that. That's a complex fraction, so in this case it's pretty easy. I can just multiply by the reciprocal of the bottom, so this is going to be cosine times cosine over cosine minus sine, and this is going to be sine times sine over sine minus cosine. Okay? Of course, cosine times cosine is cosine squared. And I have cosine x minus sine x. And sine times sine, that's a little smudge there. Sine times sine is sine squared. Now I notice that these aren't quite the same, and I am going to want to add them together. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom of this by -1. So that would change this to negative, and that to cosine x minus sine. Now they have common denominator, so I can go ahead and add it together, and I get cosine squared minus sine squared. On the bottom, now I have cosine x minus sine x. And this is maybe a point where people get stuck. They're not sure what to do here, but notice the top is a difference of squares factoring pattern, so I could factor this into cosine x minus sine x times cosine x plus sine x. And that's all over cosine x minus sine x. And so, of course, these will cancel because they're the same. And that leaves me with cosine x plus sine x, which is one of the options on number 13.